Okay, I'm sitting here with some tea. It's morning. I haven't even had breakfast yet. My cat's sitting in front of me, so I hope he doesn't disturb this filming process. Hello. Hi everyone, my name is V and welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to make a video for you all, but energy levels have been super low lately. I've taken a step back from a lot of different things in my life, and honestly, I'm happy. I am very satisfied and content with where my life is right now. You know, I haven't made a video in like a month. I've taken a step back from social media. I haven't opened Facebook or Instagram in like a week, and I don't miss it. I'm finding that I can spend a lot more time doing things that bring me joy and pleasure, including my plants. I am working on a video about my garden, and what is wrong with my voice right now? I'm really excited by my little garden. Oh my god, they just make me so happy. My little seedlings. Anyways, I wanted to make a video today just because if I didn't do it today and right now, I probably would never get to it. And it's gonna be a little bit more of a casual kind of sit down chat video, just reflecting on some things that have gone on recently and then also over the last year. Just a lot to reflecting, you know, all part of the healing process. Let's just get into it then. So about a year ago, actually, I have this other blog. I don't really publicize it because it's a lot of unpolished work, but I'll link it down below. I have this blog, and if you hear jingling, it's my cat. And I literally don't remember what event created the impetus for writing this blog post, but it was about conflict and calling in. And the blog post is called "There Is No Calling In." And around this time, I had this idea that I was trying to wrap my head around, that calling in doesn't always feel like a call in, even when you approach it with the most care and the most well-intentions, the wellest of intentions, the best of intentions, and that anytime something that you've done wrong is sort of pointed out to you, it can be very painful. There have been things in my life a lot more recently that have really taken me back to the thoughts that I was having around those times. I reread my post and I was like, 1 year ago, V was onto something, and I still really much agree with how I feel from back then, but just have like an abundance of more examples. So what I mean by that is this distinction between a call-in and a call-out is not very clear, because everything is experienced through each individual's perspectives. And so what someone who's doing the calling in may feel like it's a call-in, but on the other end, the person who is being called in may feel like it's a call out, and they may feel very hurt by it. And so I don't think it's helpful to have a debate over what to call in and what to call out, but just understanding that there is a potential for creation of harm on both sides. I don't think I'm articulating this very well. I think I articulate it much better in my post. Maybe I'll go and get my laptop right now. I really do hope I'm still centered. Now, I'm not using the front-facing camera on my phone. You know, I do film all these videos on my phone. Now that I've refreshed myself on whatever, it's honestly a super short post. When people feel the need to do a call-in, what that usually means is that there has been harm done by the person that they are trying to call in. So there's already harm that's been done somehow. You know, maybe it's intentional or maybe it's not intentional, just because of the way people have been socialized to communicate, to, you know, express their boundaries and needs in these very unhelpful, unskillful ways. So usually when, you know, you feel like you need to do a call-in, there has already been some harm done. And thus, then when you do the call-in, the person who is experiencing the call-in may also experience some discomfort or harm in the way that it's done. And I think that the only person who can define their experience of whether it's discomfort or harm or trauma or all of that, it's all relative to that person and based on that person's perspectives and life experience from before that moment. Because what happens when you have experienced a lot of trauma is that these types of things can be re-triggering of those, and it may bring up a lot of these trauma responses. And so, you know, whenever you feel some sort of discomfort, it just automatically feels like harm or pain, or you know, someone intentionally trying to hurt you, or someone's coming after you for no reason. Again, people always trying to tear you down. Like, I think that a lot of people may feel that way when a lot of the things that they've experienced in life before that have just been challenges because of all their various different identities that may be marginalized. There was something that I meant to say in this video that I forgot to say, and that is about the complexity of identity and power when it comes to conflict. Specifically, when I was experiencing my conflict during my internship, my supervisor was a woman of color who has been marginalized in different ways, yet was put in a position of power over me. Someone who, in other shapes and forms, I have certain privileges when you kind of look at her different identities in comparison. And so it's hard not to fall into this idea of oppression Olympics when there is conflict between people with different intersecting identities. A question that I propose in this blog post is there a way to do a call-in where there's zero harm? And I don't think that it's true. I think that there's always a potential for harm to be done because our different experiences and perspectives in life. Even in a liberated world, we are still going to have some forms of harm and conflict that will exist, and it's about how we manage them that will symbolize how we have progressed as a society. And I talked about this in one of my earlier videos in my channel, and I mentioned the 12 roadblocks of communication. This is a list developed by, I think he's a psychologist named Gordon. Don't remember his first name. But I learned this tool a while ago, and it's always something that's really stuck with me in terms of how we communicate with each other. And sometimes when we do a call-in, or what, you know, the checklist of what call-in is includes some of these forms of ineffective communication. And so I think that rather than sort of pointing out the things that someone has done that have been wrong or have created harm, I think that it's much more effective to ask questions about what folks' experiences are, like, you know, how they've chosen to approach different things and conversations that will be more effective for resolving conflict. I'm saying this like it's easy, but it's not, and especially if you've experienced some sort of hurt or harm from someone, it's not easy. But that, I think, with more awareness of how, all parties on how we are approaching different conversations, we can have more fruitful discussions and dialogue around how certain actions make us feel, whether it feels good or whether it doesn't feel good. Anyways, I think that's the video for today. This has just been like something that's been really on my mind. I made a post on my Instagram about conflict management and transformation, and I've been really intrigued in this area lately. I am reading Healing Resistance by Kazu Haga, which is about conflict management and how we approach conflict, and thinking a lot more about how to do this work through abolitionist values and anti-carceral values, and how do we have more compassion for people regardless of what identities they have and what they've done. there was a day last week where I was feeling just really sad. And there's a lot of things to feel sad about in the world. A lot of it was because there was a conflict in a group that I work with. There was a sort of falling out, which is kind of what really led me to revisit this blog post, but a lot of it feels relevant to a lot of things that I have experienced over the last year for myself, and also observing other groups or other people be in conflict with groups and power structures. I was feeling really sad about it, but the thing that I was feeling the most sad about was that I feel like in activist, radical, so-called activist, so-called radical, so-called movement spaces, we can tend to dehumanize each other and be very quick to judge and dismiss other people because of their identities or certain ideologies they may have, or some actions that they've even done to other people. And I want to be more optimistic that people want to become more human. They want to become more understanding. They want better for the world. And I think if we can come to the same page about that, let's find something that we agree on instead of always having some sort of infighting or competition. It just doesn't feel good to me. And I think that's why I've taken somewhat of a step back from some types of organizing, and even just like thinking about organizing and politics and social justice in the traditional sense, and really leaning towards this healing aspect of it, which I feel like is so needed. Let's see, is there anything else I have to say about this? I guess one last thing to share is that I was in a podcast, and it's called the Misfortune Cookies podcast. It's a podcast about Asian American mental health. It's coming out tomorrow, like actual tomorrow as I'm filming this. So who knows when this is coming out. I'll put a link to it in the description, because I'm sure the podcast will be out before this video comes out. And I do believe you can listen to this podcast on a lot of different podcast platforms. I know that I've listened to it on the Apple Podcast app. Please check it out. I had a really great conversation with my friend Carl, who runs the podcast, with his partner. So I share a lot more about what I've been talking about in this video in that podcast, and a lot more about sort of my personal experiences with intergenerational trauma. So I hope you check it out. And that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes I feel like my ideas are so left field that like no one understands me, because everyone's so wrapped up in whatever they're trying to do, and I'm just trying to be here and work on creating a world that I want to live in. That's finally it for this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, more videos whenever I feel like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!